Well guys, something a little bit different today. We're actually going to play a tournament. 3K guarantee, $130 buy-in, 1 hour of re-entry, so hopefully we can run up a little stack in that first hour without having to re-enter too many times. Pretty excited to play a little tournament, mix it up a little bit. There will be cash games after, so pretty excited to hop into the action here in Springfield. Thanks everybody that watched the last video. Things have been going really well on the channel, so I appreciate that. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content at all. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Let's go ahead and hop into some hands. I don't know all the structure and stuff like that. I just know the buy-in and the guarantee. So I will bring you guys that information here in just a second. Getting into this tournament, we start off with 10,000 in chips at blinds of 25.50. So we are super deep and we are into the pretty standard beginning of a tournament. Pretty deep play. Blinds are going up fairly quickly. We end up making it through to the add-on period with a pretty average stack of around 23,000 at big blind 1,000. So we go ahead and do the add-on for 10,000 more. So we're into this tournament for $190 total, looking for that top prize of $1,500, and we still have 18 runners left. So the first hand we're gonna go over, I'm looking down at ace 4 of diamonds. I'm gonna open it up here, raise it up to 2,200, and it ends up we get called by a pretty competent player. So we see the call and we're off to the flop with a pretty decent hand. Flopping middle pair here, action checks through. I think this is a pretty standard check by me. Turn comes down to 9 of clubs, action checks through again. Rivers the 10 of clubs, action ends up checking through one final time, which is pretty odd. I end up winning at showdown against ace jack. Very surprised he doesn't reshove this hand here, as he was playing around 15 big blinds to start the hand, but we take down this decent pot and we are on to the next one. In the next hand, I'm looking down at ace jack offsuit. Pretty decent hand from the small blind. We end up calling a middle position open from an unknown player, and we end up going 3 ways to the flop. King 10-4 rainbow, not the greatest flop for us, but we're not too disappointed when the action checks through. We've got a chance to hit our gut shot here. Unfortunately, the turn comes down, the 4 of spades, so nothing good for us. We end up checking. We face a bet from the player in position. Not a real decision here. We end up having to lay this one down. Not the most exciting hand, but I like to include these so you can kind of see what it really is like to sit through a tournament sometimes. In the next fun hand of poker, we've got 10-7 suited. We are on the button this time. We are sitting with around 30,000 at 600, 1,200. Action folds to me. I decide to go ahead and open it up to 2,500. And unfortunately for us, we get one caller. The flop comes down, jack 3-10, so we've got a heart. I decide to go ahead and lead out here with my middle pair after the action is checked to me, and we get a call from our only opponent. Turn is the 5 of hearts. My opponent checks right away. I decide we're gonna go ahead and bet out again. I don't think he's gonna have that many jacks in his range as played. I bet 4,500. He goes well into the tank before eventually making the fold. So we take this one down. Nice to get a little bit of value there. On to the next one. Rapid fire through these hands. We look down at 6-5 suited from middle position, still at 600, 1,200. Middle position opens to 3,000. I make the call and we are off to see a flop. Pretty reasonable flop for us. My opponent ends up checking to me. I think this is definitely a board that by far favors my range as opposed to his range. Once we see him check, I don't think he's gonna have anything good here. If he did, he would continue. I bet out 3,500 and he very quickly makes the fold. So we take down another little one. Looking down at a suited 1-gapper here from under the gun 2, action folds to me. I decide we're gonna get a little froggy here, mixing it up. We put in a raise to 2,500 and we see calls from the small blind and the big blind. Flop is a good one for our hand, if not necessarily for our range. I think this is what causes the big blind to go ahead and bet out 3,500. The small blind folds right after I go ahead and make the call. Turn comes down, an 8, not my favorite card. When the action gets checked to us, we decide to check it back. River comes down, the 5 of hearts. I don't think that's a terrible card for us at all. The big blind decides to go ahead and bet out 8,500. I think about it for a little bit, not really sure what to do. I decide we're gonna go ahead and make a pretty speculative call, even though we really didn't like that 8. Kind of messes up our whole spot, but we're gonna make the call anyway. He's gonna have to show it to us. And unfortunately, we get shown the good old 8 deuce for trips. So not too great. Don't really like that call, especially after such a bad card, but oh well, can't win every single hand. I hit record on this one a little bit late. We look down at pocket sixes under the gun. I decide to limp. I know, not great. End up going 3 ways to a flop where we flop middle set. The big blind bets out 2,000. I decide to go ahead and raise it to 8,000. Hoping that we can get some action here, hoping that he caught some sort of piece of this. He goes into the tank for quite a little while here, really hoping that we're going to get played back at.
but unfortunately we see him make the fold. We go ahead and take down a pretty nice pot. I think we might have gone a little bit too big. Let me know what you think. It's a pretty wet board, so I could go either way, especially in a limped pot. You would think somebody would have a pretty decent piece. Looking down at ace king in the big blind, we see an all-in from the small blind. Obviously, this is a snap call for us. He had about 19,000, so we had him well covered. Up against ace 3 offsuit, we're in fantastic shape. Flopping an ace, really no sweat in this hand. We take it down. Feels good to knock out a player, and we're building a stack here, feeling pretty good. Looking down at pocket kings from the button, we see an all-in from middle position. Obviously, we are making the call here. We're up against pocket nines. Flop comes down clean, clean turn, and no miracle for him on the river, so we are taking this one down. Stacking another opponent here. We are building up some momentum, heading down to the final table. We end up combining at 10 players. I'm the chip leader, but not an overwhelming one. A little late hitting the record button on this hand. We've got ace king suited from middle position, starting with about 160k at 1k 2k. I open to 5,000 and get called by the cutoff. We're going heads up to a flop, which is not a great one for us. It's a monotone flop. It's all black, but it is not spades. I decide to go ahead and bet out 10k here anyway. I'm not sure if I should c-bet here all the time, but that's what I decided to do. Put out the 10k. Unfortunately, we get some pretty bad news as our opponent shoves all in for 70k. Not a whole lot we can do here. I'm not actually thinking about making the call. There's really nothing I beat. Obviously, he's going to have a club. A decent amount of time he'll have a flush, or he'll have a top pair. He'll have something. I'm going to be live, but there's no way I'm going to win. I decide to go ahead and make the fold of the big hand that didn't really work out for us. Looking down at pocket eights, we've got about 140,000 at 2k 4k. I decided to raise it up to 10k pre-flop, and we end up with one caller who is a very good player who's actually made a lot of noise in the circuit lately, which is kind of scary. Flop comes down, queen high. I check. He bets 12,000. I make the call. I think this is pretty straightforward. Turn is an ace. We actually both check the turn, which I think is good for us. The river is a blank. I decide to bet 16,000, which is slightly on the large side, and he goes well into the tank. Obviously, we are praying for a fold here. If he's going to make the call, we're in terrible shape. Pretty much holding our breath here. You can even see the pulse in our hand a little bit, but he lays it down. So we take down a very key pot. He shows queen jack, so we got the best hand to fold. Guess that ace on the turn really scared him off. We take this one down, and we are moving right along. By the time this next hand rolls around, we've gotten fairly short, but at least the money bubble is burst. We're in the money. We're playing four-handed right now, guaranteed $200, so a small profit, but we really want to ladder up, have our eyes on that top prize of $1,500, but we have a lot of work to do. We look down at king jack offsuit from the button. This short, we've got about 120k at 3k 6k, so right at 20 big blinds. I think this is for sure going to be a rip when the action folds to me. Thankfully, we get this one through, so picking up some much needed chips, on to the next one. In this next hand, I am very short stacked now. We are all the way up to 5k, 10k. I look down at ace 3 offsuit in the big blind. One limp before me, and instead of ripping it all in, I check. Obviously, that's a mistake. I should be ripping this over a limp every time. Flop is a pretty good one for us though. Ace high flop. We get some even better news when the small blind bets out 23,000. I shove over his bet. He thinks about it for a little bit, not that long, before eventually putting in the fold. We take this one down, some much needed chips. He claims to have folded a 7. I think I believe him. I should never have an ace here because I should be shoving all my aces, but oh well, we take this one down, not complaining. After going a little bit card dead, which is obviously terrible at this stage in the tournament, we lose a player, we're down to 3 left. It's pretty much a shove or fold tournament at this point. Stacks are fluctuating a lot. At one point, the 3 remaining players are fairly even. I bring up the idea of a chop, but it kind of gets shot down. After a little bit, I look down at pocket 7s from the big blind, starting the hand off with 77,000, which is not very much. The button, who is the chip leader, shoves all in. I'm making the snap call with my pocket pair. He shows down ace 2 of diamonds, and we are off to a run out. 7 on the flop. We're feeling great. Got it locked up on the turn, and we are off to the next. And that is a full double up for us. So we're feeling great. Up to around 150,000, which is not a ton with where the blinds are at, but we are back in this thing, feeling really good. We've got a chance now. We're back in the mix. Eye on the prize. We're going to win that $1,500. Looking down at king 8 offsuit, we've got less than 10 big blinds now. We are in the small blind. We see the button fold. Time to rip it in. We don't have any other options here. We go ahead and put the money in. Unfortunately, we see a call. I think we're going to be in terrible shape, but it turns out we're actually in great shape. We're up against Queen Jack, off to a run out. Really don't want to see a king after that flop. The turn is clean, and thank God the river is clean too. Huge double up in this hand. We nearly knock out an opponent with this double up. We're now probably in the chip lead or very, very close to even almost going into heads up play. The player that we beat in this hand was down to less than 2 big blinds, I believe. So we're very, very close to being heads up and being guaranteed a pay jump, which would get us up to $800. Very excited about this. Huge hand. Felt not that great putting it in with King 8 here, but I think all the charts would tell you to do it. So we're pretty happy. Seeing all these chips come our way is a great feeling. When you get it in on the right side of a flip and win, it feels great. Time to buckle down and get the job done here now that we're down almost a heads up. The very next hand after that huge hand with King 8, we look down at Ace Jack. Obviously it's a huge premium in this spot. The short stacked player goes all in. We end up calling, go heads up. The other player doesn't get involved, so we are off to see all 5 cards to get to heads up play. Unfortunately, I didn't capture the run out, but we were up against 8-4 suited. We don't improve, he doesn't improve, so we take this one down. Officially down to heads up play. Let's get the W. Playing heads up, it's really difficult to capture all the action. In this one, we look down at pocket nines from the small blind. We're at around a 3-1 chip lead here, so we are just going to be ripping it in with our 30-ish big blinds. He snap folds those, so we take it down. Keeping the pressure on is great. Battling back and forth for a while, the blinds keep going up. We're both fairly short. I'm still comfortably in the lead, however. We look down at King 7 offsuit. We're on the button. I think this is a shove when he's got around 7 big blinds and we have around 15. I don't think there's any way around it. We go ahead and shove all in. We don't love it. He makes the call pretty quickly, but when we see the cards on their backs, it's good news. We're in the lead with King 7 against Queen Jack suited. Off to see a run out. The flop is a queen one. We flop a 7. Not that that really matters that much. We're looking to dodge a queen. We dodge a queen on the turn. The river is clean. We take it down. First place in the tournament. Super pumped. $1,500. Huge win for me. Can't believe we win this thing. It was a long battle. Felt like a long day. I don't even know how to put it into words. Very excited. Couldn't be happier to take this thing down.
Well, guys, that's all for today's episode. Hope you really enjoyed watching me take down a poker tournament. Felt really good. We needed it. Things have been going a little bad lately, but this is a big uptick. We'll for sure take it. Feel pretty good about how I played. Great about how I ran. Awesome. Take this one down. Please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate all the support. See you guys next time. Hopefully we can bring you another big win. Have a good one.